This is the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. We talk all things health, wealth, and community connection. Let's go. Welcome to this episode of the Ink, Pray, Love podcast. Today, I have a very special treat for you. I have a singer, a creator, an epic human that I met at Leaders Create Leaders. Shout out to G. Gerard Adams had us link up, and as soon as I met Raven, I was like, yo, she's dope. Right away, just an epic human, a ball of energy, creativity, and expression times 1,000. Right there is what I noticed about you, Raven, was you were fully expressed. You didn't pull any punches. Expression, creativity was just you. And I knew right away that when I was setting up this podcast that you would really benefit my listeners. The expression that you give, the way you show up, the creativity that you just ooze out and pump out is juicy. It's on fleek. So I'm excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for making the trip out. And we're doing this in LA, two Van City kids.
Hey.
Linking back up here. Thank you for coming.
My absolute pleasure, Aren. I love you, appreciate and adore and reflect back. Your creativity and expression inspires the heck out of me. So let's get into it. Let's juice this thing.
Yes. So firstly, let's let the audience know, what do you do? What are you doing in life?
Yes. I am a multidimensional, multidisciplinary creator. I have been since I could walk, talk, think, dance, breathe, sing. And I have made my way through life by creating in all sorts of different genres and mediums and different industries. And right now, my main focus and my joy is song and music. And then all of the creations associated with that, writing, producing, directing, and just helping to create experiences that bring people into the magic of art.
Juicy. It was amazing.
I think so.
When did you start, like, knowing that this was your path, like creation was your jam? Was that a young age thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I've always been into creative artworks and, like I said, every kind of medium, from drawing to painting to digital art to, makeup and hair was my first company that I started. Was doing that when I was 17, 18. But I think the real integration of my creativity with my entrepreneurship and understanding that I really wanted to make my own art, my life path, happened when I was in my early 20s.
How did that go? What was it? Walk me through that. How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I hit a low point like most people do when they enslave themselves to the system and slowly drain themselves of their vital life force.
The Matrix gets you.
It really did.
Books are indeed, right?
Yeah.
So how did you unhook yourself, or how did that go?
It was a slow weaning off of the security of the system for me.
Yeah.
And luckily, I had a great family support system setting me up. And then the partners that I had in my early 20s were also very supportive of me and saw my light. So leaning into community support and the people who really believed in me helped me to test out different avenues of living off of my creativity and dabbling in all sorts of different ways of expressing that, again, from yoga to aesthetics to website design to branding to book editing. I've literally done it all in the creative realms. And so I always had that confidence that I could do it. So it's been a process of refining from that point where I decided, like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So it was a big I can't do this anymore moment.
In the sense of you can't not create.
That's right.
Living. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's super important to actually notice. So there's a lot of people that they're creative, but they're like, I can't make a living out of this.
Yeah.
Or, so I got to go create for someone else.
Yeah.
Or go do a 9-to-5, and just you're suppressing what your true desire, what your true actually expression is. And I felt that way. I didn't even know I was a creative until I got out and started launching businesses.
Really?
Oh, actually, that's the way I do think as a creative. I'm not a numbers guy.
Right.
I'm more like the fun uncle than like the father of a business. I'm like gonna come in and just like shake things up. But that, accounting and that part of things is like not my favorite.
Yeah.
That's not my favorite. But I come in and I want to be a creative, and I've seen that that's actually what I like to get paid to do. So you being multidisciplinary, you're in so many different areas to create, and you get paid with those. That's juicy. And I think a lot of people see that if you can create in one space, you can then create in others. How did you transfer that from one discipline to multiple other ones? What's the practice there that you can then shift and transfer the skills?
Great question. Yeah, to me, the art of using your creativity to not only make a living, but to serve your purpose is about deep listening. So if you can listen and really get in tune with not just what am I hearing from other people's opinions, but what is the divine telling me? What is my body intuition telling me? What's keeping me up at night? What are those voices in my head that I just can't seem to shut them up, you know? That kind of listening is what has always enabled me to know when it's time to make a change, when it's time to pivot. And often I'll have needs that are presented to me. Like someone will come and be like, hey, I'm really looking for a writer. That was how my writing career started. It was like someone I loved and served deeply in other ways really needed help with their book. And so I was like, I can do that. And then boom, next thing you know, an entire career path had unfolded for that. Same thing happened to me with painting and poetry writing and makeup and hair artistry and yoga. Like all of these different avenues came as a result of me listening, responding to a need, and showing up in service. And so linking my creativity and my service with this higher purpose has enabled me to flow pretty easily from medium to medium and from path to path. Wow. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And it sounds like there's a lot of confidence in that.
Yeah.
Where does the confidence come from?
Whew. Confidence comes from hitting rock bottom so many times and continuing to come back to that listening, trusting those divine whispers and then following them. Because if I don't do that, then I'm just going to sit stagnant. And I've also had so many periods of deep stagnancy in my life. Like you had asked, what got you out of that 9-to-5 sort of slave mentality? Yeah. And it was, I can paint the picture for you, is I had a very cushy job. I was an academic advisor at a university, one that we both know, the University of British Columbia. Yep. I was sitting there and every day the kids would come into my office. They would tell me, my mom wants me to be a lawyer, but my dad wants me to be a doctor. Like, what do you think I should do? I was low key kind of like, you should do whatever you want. Like,
ayahuasca.
That was before my ayahuasca time. Word. But had I had that influence, so safe to say that really didn't resonate with who I was to sit and to help more people subscribe to that system. And I'm all for education. I graduated with my bachelor's degree. I did the thing. And that was never the place for me to really feel myself in my fullness and my expression. It was just it was a security base. Yeah. It was a place for me to start off from. But I noticed that, I was working, I had my regular salary coming in. My parents were super proud of me. They're like, look at you, you're going to put a down payment on your first apartment. Yeah. I'm like, I literally could not care how much money I have right now. I'm dying inside, And so eventually I gave my notice, and it was that job specifically where I was giving my notice to that whole way of being. Yeah. It was like, I will only come back here if there's literally no other choice for me. And ever since that day, I think I was maybe 22 or 23 years old, more and more choices have continued to unfold for me. And the more I've listened and leaned into them, the more obvious it's become that I was always meant to be a full-time sovereign creator, and now especially a singer, which is my truest passion, my deepest dream, my highest joy.
Love it.
Yeah.
Wow. So it sounds like you said no to, parents are happy, paychecks coming in, an apartment in Vancouver, which is fucking expensive, everybody. So it's like, hey, that's a big deal,
I was set up for that.
Yeah. And so that's like security right there. Yeah. And to say no to that, I think would freak a lot of people out. Yeah. But then without risk, there's no reward. Then you get to do all this freedom, right? In that creation element, like, what was it like? Were you scared to jump out and just to say no to it?
Definitely.
How did you get through the fears?
I got through the fears because the feeling of freedom was so much greater than the feeling of the fear that it tantalized me, it pulled me, it seduced me into that life. I couldn't resist. It was just like my soul was calling out, like, come on, there's so much in this world for you to explore. So many connections, so many opportunities, so many places to go. And I have never been one to want to live a half life. Yeah. So that's just in my nature. And it might not be in everyone's, but I do feel there is that spark and that calling for all of us to live our freedom. And it does take courage to listen to that and to say no to whatever that is not.
Mic drop. Yeah. 100%. What would you say, like, as a little app to somebody, like, take the risk? Like, what's the, I like it in a, what's the worst that could happen type of situation. So I'm not very risk, averse. I'm just like, fucking go for it. What's the worst that's going to happen? It's like, you'll figure it out. What do you say to people? Maybe not in such an aggressive way that I did it. Is like, how would you encourage someone to live their full creative genius or their full creative expression?
Mm-hmm. I would start with a simple question, why not? Yeah. And then watch how many excuses you list off after that. If you're bored by the end of your list, you should probably go, go do the thing. Like, there will come a point where you're tired of your own bullshit. There will come a point where you're tired of that feeling of just, it's just not quite it. And so I say, why not? What's the best that could happen, really? And how much more you are you going to get to be just by making this decision and taking that risk? And for me, that's always, always, always worth it. It flexes your trust muscle, it flexes your devotion muscle, like all of these different muscles suddenly start to come online. It's like you've been sitting in a chair for so long, then all of a sudden, boom, you're an athlete. You have no choice but to train. So to me, if you're someone who's like driven by self-development, if you're driven by the call to become the best version of yourself, there's nothing more in service to your soul that you can do than to say yes to living from your creativity. And then just watch how life becomes this magical adventure where you get to travel and meet people and, miraculous synchronicities happen as a result of that confidence. And again, that courage, which comes from opening your heart to the possibility that it might be the best thing you've ever
I just love you. That's gold.
done. I love you too.
And that's absolutely how I live my life. And I've seen it just like random awesome shit always happens.
Always
it's like
random.
it's just random awesome shit's always happening to me. And now I'm just like, of course it does. Like I'm just so not expect it, but I look for it and it comes. And I appreciate that. And also I like doing random awesome shit for people. So I know it's just how it rolls. But also I do random awesome shit for me. So that comes to me because I'm also like, setting myself up to have a random awesome day. Yeah, I appreciate that shit, But I want to ask, when you're starting to, like, you got technical there and I really liked it. Flexing the muscle of this, flexing the muscle of that. Let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah.
What comes online when you start choosing your creativity as a way of living?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, there is intense self-doubt. There's intense fear. There's almost like that. I've let go of the training wheels. Holy shit, I got to ride this bike by myself. So I feel like it's normal to go through that period of where you feel destabilized. And learning how to stay centered while everything feels like it's moving around you and nothing is certain is the first hurdle that one has to go through when they're saying yes to their creativity. And just like we started this podcast, we did some breath work. We grounded ourselves. We centered ourselves. Any practice that you can find in your life to stay centered is the most important thing. Because once you've said yes to your soul, guess what? It's just you and your soul. That's it. And that's where confidence comes in, because we start to develop this muscle of tuning into our soul and then listening from that place and responding or expressing what's coming through. And so that expression is in and of itself the most fundamental practice of living a creative life. You have to be able to hear what your soul is saying to you, and then have the confidence to translate that outside, because that is how you start to build rapport with the universe. That's how you get to that place of, I just know that my day is going to be awesome, because you have trained yourself to believe that. And we're vibrational beings. So at our core, every sound, every thought is coding our reality. And once you get on that bike, just those two wheels and you're going, you start to see this in real time. It becomes really obvious where your thoughts are throwing you off. And it becomes really obvious which thoughts are keeping you centered and steady. So then it becomes a game of focus and constant choice and constantly moving that lever towards what you want, what you want, what you want, what you want.
I love that. And that's exactly where I was hoping you were going to take that, was the thoughts that are throwing people off. Because I know that's what stops so many people of actually going for it, is the can'ts. I don't know, I'm not good enough.
Shouldn't.
Yeah. How do you battle those? How do you trust yourself to listen to the thoughts that are in alignment and also just bypass the ones that are like not in alignment with the highest creation?
Yeah. Well, I think that there's wisdom and beauty to be found in both. And I think a really important part that we can't bypass is the feelings that are associated with those negative and limiting beliefs. Because there's a reason why we have them. There's a reason why we're born and we feel this constriction or this repression. All of us have it in some way. And we're meant to break out of that. We're meant to say no to that and say yes to who we're really meant to be. It's part of the human process of becoming. And so honoring that those challenges are here because they're offering you a portal to a deeper depth of wisdom in your being. Deeper empathy, deeper compassion, deeper understanding, sensitivity, and deeper feeling. And if you're really a creative person, then feeling is what drives you, right? Passion is what drives you. And you have to be able to feel the full spectrum of both the positive and the negative of that experience in order to come into embracing who you are and understanding, like, yes, I feel shitty sometimes. Yes, I doubt myself sometimes. It feels terrible. It makes me want to throw up. Sometimes I have to rage and hit my pillow for an hour, And I do that so that I can authentically live the positive vibration. I can authentically choose to bask in the joy and the ecstasy of doing what I love. And then it starts to feel less like a fantasy fairy tale castle and more like something real in your body that you're owning and creating for yourself. So it's a slow process, and it takes dedication to the full spectrum of emotion in order to really ground in.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, how do you trust your emotions?
Can you trust your emotions? I mean, emotions definitely have wisdom for us. They are energy in motion, moving energy through us. And our bodies are incredibly intelligent conduits of that energy. Our body, with just a simple shake or a loud scream or a cry, can transmute thousands of millennia of conditioning and repression into freedom. And so we can trust that there is this alchemical process that is built into us having emotions. And that is more so what I trust rather than the emotion itself. Because an emotion is a passing thing. But the process of transformation that comes when I feel my emotions, that's eternal and that's powerful. So that's why I'm all about embracing what we feel and then allowing the wisdom of that kind of when the dust clears or the fire burns down to really settle and lead us to that next point of inspired, dedicated action.
I love that. I love that. That is feels like the soft feminine way of it. And I appreciate that a lot because mine's like, you can't trust your emotions, trust your actions.
Right.
Yeah, if you're feeling sad, feel sad, but go and do what a happy person would do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just try to hack those things. And it got me through the accident a lot where I was like, I feel sad. I feel like I just want to do nothing, but I'm going to go do something an elevated person would do.
Right.
And then eventually I start being elevated. I'm like, okay, you can trust the actions. But the emotions, you got to get past sometimes, but you can't not feel them. And that's what I think the masculine side, there's the toxic end of it where it's just like, I don't feel my emotions.
You just ignore them.
Yeah, I'm just going to go and man the fuck up. But then that comes in with suppression. And then that suppression energy always blocks my creativity.
Yeah.
But then when I'm able to feel in my feminine side more, I get crazy creative downloads. It's wild how much more I bring in when I'm able to soften and I'm not just muscling it through everything.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of guys, they have like a blockage there in creation if they're not tapped into their feminine end. What would you recommend for guys that want to then okay, singing is an edge for me.
Right.
I just don't think I have a good singing voice.
Gotcha.
Dancing, I have awkward, lanky arms. I don't know what they're doing half the time. It's just fucking weird.
Random gesticulating.
Side note, before we started the podcast, we're trying to get the video, let's got angles, and we're like, we can't do this. Let's just make sure we get the gesticulation.
No excessive gesticulating.
Moderate gesticulation only.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would you say to guys wanting to tap into their feminine and then creative more to do it in a healthy way? Because there's so much stigma against this.
Yeah. I would say think about how much do you want to live a holistic, integrated life? And if that's important to you to any degree, I would put being with my emotional body on the priority list just as much as working out my physical body or working out my financial body. It is part of that full spectrum human experience. So give it precedence on your to-do list and make it a part of your everyday practice to connect with your emotions. And then it starts to normalize. And then it's not like this huge, scary, weird thing that's like living outside of your realm. It's part of who you are.
I love it.
Yeah.
Where does regulating your emotions and being in touch with your emotional body also tie into productivity? And actually, like, there's the creatives, but how much shit gets done? That creative practice, that edge.
Yeah. Well, it's a balance, because if you're a very type A person who does things a certain way and you're very militant in your style of production or creation, especially if you have a business, then you are going to have to invite yourself to create more space for a slightly different way that you do things overall. And so incorporating your emotions into your day-to-day activities means that you're more in touch with the cycles and the seasons of your own creativity. Just like, some days we have rainy days and we just want to snuggle and we want to do that thing. So you may not have the option to do that because you're running, 5 businesses, but how can you infuse that rainy day cozy energy into what you're doing? Maybe you wear something more comfortable to the office for a change, or you take a break and you go and do a yoga class. How can you just infuse the energy of the moment and of your current emotional cycle into your already alpha activities?
Yeah.
And then if you have more space, and let's say you're not running 5 businesses, then how can you really focus on your emotional seasons and cycles as a way to gain intuition and inspiration for what you're meant to do? Because for women especially, we bleed as well. And so we have a monthly cycle where our productivity varies widely. And it's an issue for a lot of women as well, where we're just steamrolling through our cycle when, for 7 to 14 days out of the month, we get to be with our feet up, receiving massages and chocolate, right? And that's a metaphor for attuning to the seasons within and allowing those to actually inform the pace at which nature is trying to produce greatness through us.
Wow. I really love that. And, that speaks to also like the seasons of creativity in us, creative blocks. I was talking to you about my book before we started, and I'm like, I need your help. Also, it's like, how do we get through creative blocks, because there's seasons, and I feel it all the time. There's times where I'm amped to create and I'll write like 3 or 4 chapters in a day or in a couple days, and then months go by. And I'm like, okay, how do I control the seasons a bit more? I know we can't control the weather.
Yeah.
I mean, science is trying to do that, but I don't trust that shit. There's something wrong with that. But
we're making clouds now.
Yeah. I don't know. But back to how do we control our creative practice or creativity, and how do we use that for our benefit then if we have deadlines, or if it's part of our job, or like, we need to create content. How do we get that dialed in?
Well, the first thing is listening to the block, understanding if the block is trying to give you a deeper lesson about a way that you either need to change the way that you're creating or to give more spaciousness to the creation itself. Because there is a beautiful magic in all of our creations where nature has its timing, So sometimes certain things need to fall in place in order for creation to reach its full fruition. And often I found that comes in the form of collaboration. Like, for example, you've been blocked on your book for a while. Maybe the inspiration that's needed is the dynamic, the collaboration, the spark that again, right? Yeah. And so for me, I found that opening up to who has the next key for me, whether that's just one conversation or some support that I bring on more long-term, can really help with our creativity, because it's never meant to be a solo practice. It truly is about inviting people in and sharing and giving and receiving from that energy. So once you've listened to your creative block and discerned if whether or not it's giving you a deeper message to pause or redirect, then it's like, great, what source of inspiration can I invite into my life to help me to move through this and find the confidence and empowerment to create the next level of my dream?
I really like that, because I have that too. When I feel blockages in certain ways, I know I'll tap into certain friends of mine.
Yeah.
And that helps. Just have a conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's what I need.
That's what I needed.
Shifts things a little bit, right? I like that a lot. Where do you find, because you have so many different creative practices, like so many, where are your sources of inspiration coming from?
My community and other people is really my biggest source of inspiration. I feel deeply people's pain and people's joy, and I feel our collective dream for a utopian existence, and I want to play my part in that. So personally, I'm driven by deep devotion to life. I'm driven by a deep commitment to using my voice, my body, my art, my energy to serve this planet, so I can leave this planet knowing that my legacy is going to continue to inspire many, many people. And if you can find that devotion within you, that's going to be your strongest source of inspiration going forward. And that reflects on the people around me who are also devoted to serving the dream that is being birthed through me. And that fuels me every day to get up. And, right now I've got a great thing going with my 2 girls who are like my closest teammates, and we're up every day at 5 a.m, going to the gym together and like helping each other get through that morning stagnancy. And I couldn't do it without them, at this point in my life. And every season there's going to be those allies and those friends. And I feel like if you call those allies in, you'll never meet a block you can't surmount.
Ooh. Yeah, I'd love that. You gotta have your squad.
Gotta have your squad.
Yeah, and the squad's gotta be on and popping too. Like, it says that they're doing shit. It's so important, right? It's so important that they're like, okay, they see your goals, they want to help you there, and you can provide value. It's reciprocal. Like, it's super important. I love that. That's why when I come down to LA, I'm gonna go stay at Lucas and Hella's house, and I'm like, great. I can see what they're on, and I'm like, I like that stuff too. Like, I can do it too. Like that's really important. Or we went to Leaders Create Leaders, and I was like, there's so many people there that are in the business of bettering themselves. Like, literally, that's what they do, is bettering themselves and then help others. And I love that as a practice. And I get so much out of my creativity from handling my own shit. Like, literally just going through fucked up shit. And then being like, that was intense. Like, okay, I'm smarter now, though. Okay, I can, like, help other people. Why does it have to be this way? It'd be nice not to get hit by trucks, but so much came out of it. So many good things came out of it. I never would have met you if that didn't happen. I never would have came back to Vancouver if that didn't happen. Like, so much, like, came out of that. So I think, a lot of people can be maybe in a victim mode of something like, fuck, that happened to me. But then it's like, well, look at all the things that can happen out of that, and use it to, like, use that. So I think, and so many artists go through, like, their best work comes out of their deepest pain, right?
Definitely.
That's a huge source of inspiration. And then you can serve other people from it, not just, like, bitch about your problem. You can make the best love song ever made.
Yeah.
And Usher's great songs from, you know, bad things happening.
The whole era.
There's a whole era. Let it
Great
burn.
music.
You know? Yeah, no, just about this is good confessions. I'm like, dude, now you put that song out, you know, that's a
Dude, that whole album.
that whole album.
Yeah.
And it was classic. That I can sing almost every word of those songs.
Well,
You remind me, I can sing I crush that. Karaoke, I'll fuck up Usher.
we gotta go do that.
Oh, it's bad. We should do that while we're in LA. Actually, that's a good idea.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Lose down. Let's see, go for a karaoke night.
Ooh.
That's a good idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Back on track to the podcast. But what would you say were some of your biggest creative like shift moments? Like, were they from crazy shit that's happened to you? Like, where you said rock bottoms before.
Mm-hmm.
How did that then like leapfrog your career?
Yeah, wow. I'm gonna sit with that one. Give me a second. The honest truth, Aren, is that there have been so many times in my life where I didn't want to live anymore. And, you know, call it my destiny, call it my karma, call it just the nature of my own journey. But I faced so much deep grief, so much deep heartbreak, both in my family relationship and in intimate partnerships, those two areas specifically, that I have felt like I'm out, I'm done. And so those rock bottom moments have been really long periods of time in which, you know, I was categorically depressed and very, very much not even caring to look for the light per se. Just like, you know what, if something great is going to happen, just let it happen because I'm tired. And I found that every time I've reached that point, there has always still inside of me been a spark of that fire. There's always been something that I haven't been able to put out fully. And I'm curious about that spark. I'm endlessly curious about that spark because I'm like, why are you still here? How come I can't squash you? And every time I just turn my attention on it a little bit, the flame gets bigger. And I've noticed that every time I go down into that place, the quicker that I can put my attention on that spark, pay attention to it, and ask it to reveal to me the magic and the beauty that is here, boom, it's revealed. And then it's just a matter of doing what an elevated person would do, doing what a passionate person would do, having the bravery, having the courage to get up and to take that next natural step towards my dream. And I've just rinsed and repeated that process time and time again. So now I know when I hit rock bottom, we keep going.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's gold. I know exactly what you mean. It's through the accident, through so many rock bottoms I had, it was like, well, you're still here and keep going and like just keep going and then be proud of yourself. You can keep going. And that spark, I really love that analogy because I know there's that fighting spirit. I felt I had that. I was like, I still have that. Like, that's hard to kill. Like, that's really... I'm hard to kill, but also that's hard to
spirit.
Yeah, spirit is a powerful thing, and that spirit is definitely in connection with creation and divine creation, cosmic creation, and then our creative practice. And I really believe creativity is an antidote for depression.
Yeah,
really, every time I'm feeling shitty, I go and build something or create something, and I'm like, I feel better now. Like, look what I did, you know, like to myself, you know, you know, it's so important. Like, reinvent yourself. Or like, you know, the accident, I was super depressed. I was in a wheelchair for 3 months. I was like, that's boring. It's fucking hard, you know? And then I launched a business right after, and I was like, yay, okay, like I can still do stuff, you know, and that feels so good for our confidence. I think anybody that's having a creative block, or even worse, you know, deep in depression, many times I've been in, is go build something. Just go and do something. Go do something. Learn a language. That was really helpful for me.
Yeah.
Go learn Indonesian. It's an easy language to learn. Yeah. But then you get to mess around with people and tell jokes in a different language. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Or something on an easier scale, but those small little creative wins we were able to, because I like creating connection. That's actually how I'm creative. And that's a fun thing to do. But when you see that happen and then enjoy it, like I think a lot of people don't enjoy what they built.
Yeah.
They're too busy doing other shit.
Yeah.
Like, how do you stay present with your creative practice? Do you create a song or like create a painting or a poem, and then do you really enjoy it after, or do you just build something else? Like,
oh, I enjoy the fuck out of my stuff. Oh, absolutely. I'm obsessed with my own art.
It's awesome.
And I do that because I'm obsessed with the magic and power of the resilience of the human spirit, and how amazing it is that I can go through the most devastating breakup of my whole life and then write the album of my freaking dreams, you know, a few months later. And like, what is that? That's amazing. I listen to those songs every day and I'm just like, what? Sometimes I can't even believe that it's me, you know? And when I look at paintings I've made too, I just I'm mesmerized by the fact that I have the power in these hands to bring beauty and life into this world just from listening to my imagination. And I have a great story to tell you as well.
Bring it.
About this. Yeah. So I was 21 years old. I had just graduated from university. I had gone off to Scotland to finish my bachelor's degree.
Cool.
And spent 6 months there reconnecting with my inner fantasy writer and, you know, just like flitting about the hills and down the alleys and, you know, being in castles and the whole thing.
I'm seeing sheep.
It's sheep. I miss them. Oh, a sheep. The way they tumble down the hills, it's magnificent.
They fall down hills?
They tumble. They're so cute. The hills are steep. They can't stay upright. It's precious. Oh, the sheep. Thank you, sheep. Yeah.
Thank you, sheep.
So I came back from living with the sheep and being in that whole fantasy realm. And then I hit another serious depression because I came back to Vancouver and I was like, literally, now what? I had, prior to that, spent 3 years competitive bodybuilding. So I had really intensely trained myself to have this discipline and focus and cultivated my alpha instinct to such a degree that I was like, all right, I got to hit the ground running here. But then I just hit the ground and there was no running and there was weight gain and there was hormone disorders. And then there was a relationship that ended really, really badly with a deep betrayal. And all of that happened in the span of 6 months after getting back. And I had nothing. I was like living in my parents' house. I was not inspired. I had already left that old job and I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. So I started a morning journaling practice. I read the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Classic. Morning pages. Saved my life, honestly.
Yeah.
But what was interesting is it wasn't the pages itself that saved my life. It was what happened as a result of me doing that, which was after about a few weeks of doing my morning journaling, all of a sudden I got inspired to start drawing. And I just started drawing mandalas. I drew really, really simple ones to start. And I hadn't given myself permission to do anything outside of the lines for a long time. So it was amazing to me that I was letting myself draw. I did that day in and day in and day in, and then I started just sharing them on Instagram. And this was like the beginning of Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was like,
I was like, look at a burger. Like,
well, yeah, like whatever.
yeah, I remember that.
Awkward selfie of my face.
Yeah,
no context.
Yeah,
Like
no context.
no context at all. Right? And so these mandalas would go on my Instagram feed that I had drawn during my morning meditation practice. Before you know it, I had someone reaching out to me to ask if I would do a gallery collection of my art.
Okay.
And I was like, duh. Oh, like, I'm not a painter. Like, what is this? But then I was like, yeah, heck, why not? Next thing you know, I had created all of these mandala pieces, beautiful. I did them in wood burnings. I did huge acrylic paintings. I did small, super detailed pen and ink stuff. And then that led me to having an artist residency and then a youth mentorship. And then I wrote a book of poetry and published that. And, you know, had so many amazing interactions from that experience that helped me heal my heartbreak. And that helped me find my next path, which was going into yoga teacher training and starting to bring my art back into the world, bring my voice back online and start to share something through my body.
Wow.
And so that was, how Morning Pages saved me and how creativity helped me get up and running again.
I love it. I was doing morning pages when I was in the wheelchair.
Oh, yeah?
Morning pages is powerful.
How did that serve you in that time?
Because I would also just like, I'd never gone into journaling. I guess it's like, I didn't find it like a very masculine practice. And I was a kickboxer. I was a drug dealer. I was very like in this unhealthy masculine. Not that kickboxing isn't unhealthy, but a lot of like, you know, so, you know, and that wasn't like a thing for me. And so then in the morning to drive my little motorized wheelchair, start writing in the mornings was actually like very therapeutic. And I would just like talk to myself. So I would just like, hey buddy, you know what you should do today? You know, don't be a bitch. But like, no, like, not like
Drink some water.
Yeah, drink some water, you know, like take care of yourself. And also I was just like going through my mental, like cataloging where my emotions were and then coaching myself. So I'd like speak to myself from a higher self and then like just dissect what I was going through mentally and then give myself advice. Actually, I really like that. I was like, oh, I have my own back. Like I can actually trust myself, take care of myself. And so that was actually quite empowering. So morning pages is actually a great practice. 3 pages every morning for everybody. You write anything, whatever you want. Whatever you want. Just 3 pages. You have to write 3 full pages. And so that can get difficult. Sometimes it would just be like blah, 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 blah. Like literally write blah, blah, blah. Like, literally. It would just like really big words. Like just like double space, you know?
One time I got a really small journal. So my 3 pages were like so fast.
3 words. I write page.
Yes. Here is my page.
So, you know, it was like very therapeutic to do something like that, you know, and to actually be writing around it. And you know, I like that. This the cure for depression in that creativity, in a practice, in working on yourself in that way. I really enjoy that. You know, what, like, morning pages was a cornerstone then. What else was helping you get out there? And then how did you developing a creative practice then shift your life into now what it is today?
I mean, my life now is a creative practice. And I understand, I gotten to know myself enough to know that if I'm not creating in some way every day, I'm not living and I'm not being me. And I can feel it instantly. My mood goes down. I get tense. I'll get headaches. My body responds when I'm not creating. And she shows me, she's like, Rich, you need to paint. Like, Rich, you need to get in the studio right now. Like, just do it. Yeah. And I've learned to trust that so much. And I think, honestly, there was a period where, you know, digital media really started to boom. And I found a niche there in website design and in branding and marketing. And for a while, I had this vision of building this huge branding agency. And I had done all of this work. And I, you know, went out and was pitching investors. And I was kind of like building this energy around being a creator for creators. And all of that was beautiful, but it was also pointing me back to like, but what are you doing for you? Like, what is your voice in all of this? Are you really just going to be the girl that directs other people's brands, or do you have a brand inside you that also wants to be born? That was the journey of the later half of my 20s, is starting to understand, who am I and what is this all about? And, you know, now, for example, I just finished filming my course, Voice Codes.
Dope.
And in that course, we have a module specifically on what you just shared around scribing from your higher self and actually calling in different aspects of yourself to speak through you as you're journaling, because that is one such practice that's really helped me lock in and stay centered in my creative journey, is understanding that I have the answers, I have access, I have a safe space. It's me and the pen and the page, and I can figure anything out from here.
I love that.
And so I think the biggest piece of it all is being able to say no confidently and calmly to things when I realize that they're no longer for me. And I've had to say no a lot to get to where I am today.
That is a really difficult practice. I got a bit of a rubber arm, so I need to saying no to stuff. It's like, it is a practice I've been developing for years.
Right.
Before it was just like, sure, whatever. You know, it's just like so much of that, right? I don't even know what that is. That drug joke. But anyways, it's just like that was in the 20s. Now it's like, you know, you need to be able to say no because you have a higher calling, higher mission.
Yeah.
I want to know about voice codes. Run me through it. What is this? Sounds exciting. Tell us.
Oh, I shall tell you. Well, Voice Codes was incidentally birthed out of the heartbreak after my latest and greatest devastating separation from a partner. And so that was 2021. It was me kind of sitting in the shit being like, literally, what do I do now? And two things came to me. One was like, you need to start in-person song circles here in LA, get people singing together, share medicine music, share love, have a heartbeat. The second thing was translate what you know. I have so many years of experience in training in singing, vocal production, in writing, in speaking. These are my masteries. And so it was like, you got to get this out. You got to share this with people. And so I started a beta group back then and just did it for free. And then I ran 3 rounds of the course live. And then I was like, I got to capture this. I got to catalog this. And Voice Codes is designed to help you come into your ultimate mastery as a reality programmer, understanding how to use your voice to encode your reality with specific frequencies that you want to live by. I believe that singing is one of the most powerful ways we can encode our reality, because it's not just a mental discourse, it's also an emotional energy that we're bringing. And so I break down in the course singing, speaking, scribing. I also break down silence, sharing, and sounding as these different pillars of the voice, teaching how to really use each one, exercises for each one, so that you can have a really holistic experience of your voice as that master instrument for creating your life.
Wow. Sounds so powerful. Yeah. What is reality programming for those that wouldn't know?
So if you think of your mind as a supercomputer, it responds to whatever code that you put into it. That's going to give you your resulting operating system or your resulting program. Most of our coding is based off of our unconscious, conditioned, or learned beliefs. Our beliefs are the source code. Those are the things that are underlying everything else that we put into it. And so looking at how you can use, for example, your journaling practice to address that source code and see what beliefs are really keeping you held back is, for example, one of the first steps we do. But if you want to consciously create the reality that you want, you can use your voice to encode new frequencies into your everyday habitual thinking patterns. So this is a lot about repetition. This is a lot about discerning what thoughts are serving me and not, and then choosing to override codes that are just causing hardware malfunctions and breakdowns and system crashes. It's like if your system is constantly crashing, there's something in the code to look at. And it all starts with our mind. I believe as humans, our ultimate power is that we can choose the thoughts we think. It's that power of choice. And it starts with the silent voice, and then the spoken voice, and then ultimately the singing voice and the voice of our spirit. And the more that we can consciously take the wheel in those realms, then the better outputs we get. And so I believe that. I believe that the voice is our instrument for programming that supercomputer of our mind.
Wow. I love that. That's super, super powerful to hear that. I think people benefit massively of that.
Yeah.
When I was thinking, like when I left my mid-20s and the life in my mid-20s and to shift my life over, it gave me freedom that I was able to express myself, that I was able to not be like the thug from East Van. I was able to like, okay, go. Did a yoga teacher training. I think everybody should
go do it.
Everybody should do yoga teacher training. Like it just, if you want to be a yoga teacher or not, it's going to change your life, right?
Yeah.
And how I was showing up to that first yoga teacher training was like not cool. My teacher hated me, right? I was like buying everybody wheatgrass shots, like at this like just a douchebag, right? Like diamond earrings,
oh my god,
earrings, man purse, like I was just the worst, right? And it was just like
it would have been fun.
It was just so cheesy. I was so douchey, right? How showing up was just the worst. And then when I started like seeing that I could like speak in a different way and like change my languaging, so because it was just like hood, and I was able to like be a bit more articulate, and that helped, and it changed my thoughts. So it's a big deal to catch your words and how you express yourself. I started chanting actually the last couple of months. I did like a chanting meditation. I'm training with this intuitive psychic. She's amazing. And Therese, shout out. And it was really shifting me to be able to use my voice a bit more. And I was noticing I'd feel like vibrations on my skin when I started tapping into something. I was like, okay, this is something I want to play with. But I still got an edge to like sing is still like a bit of like an edge for me. That's still like, oh, I got to do it, but I don't sound good. What advice would you give me specifically how to get through this?
Oh, what a great question. I would ask you, how willing are you to let the full force of your radiance and beauty come out? That is directly corresponding to your willingness to sing. Yeah.
Okay.
I would start with that in Korean.
So then under that, would there be a blockage probably to be seen at that level then?
Yeah.
Interesting. And how do you work people through blockages in that sense?
I usually get them shaking their bodies and making silly sounds and demonstrating what it's like to be confident and expressed, because I have worked through those things myself, but it really just is about doing it. It's just about showing up like, what would a singer do in this moment? Right, yeah. And so I really am about fostering like an encouraging, optimistic, loving space where that part of us to be seen. Because that's so connected to our inner child, our singer and our joy and our playfulness and our freedom. That's really who we are when we come into this world.
How much is creativity blocked because we don't want to be seen? That seems like a thread right there.
You yank that and the whole freaking carpet comes down while it's been hanging on some guy's rack for 1,000 years. Everybody's sitting on the carpet. It's like a whole pile of people are all
the bodies are falling.
No one wants to be seen. They're all trying to hide under the rug now. We got to pick them up. Yeah. Chaotic. Guy, don't get under the rug. Get out from under the rug. It's fear of being seen is probably the greatest fear that I encounter in people who are coming to me to ask for advice or support with expressing their voice or their creativity. And I get it. Like, I've been there also. And that, for me, the fear comes of feeling not worthy. Like, I'm not, who am I to, there's all these reasons why I'm not that. And that's just yet another level of that deep discernment of, are those beliefs really helping you live the life that you want to live? Is that code really helping you get the outputs that you want? Like, chances are they're not. Chances are that's not really how you want to feel. And you want to feel expressed and you want to feel joyful and to be able to sing freely, happy birthday or whatever. Just sing because you love it and you love to make music, and that just brings joy to other people. And so it's a feedback mechanism too. It's like, what do you want to see in the world? How much can you bring and be that? And when joy and love and inspiration and positivity becomes your focus, singing is just a natural part of that. Something else I love about singing and really singing is that it's not personal. to really sing means to take off that ego crown. It's taking off that whole identity of I am Aren and I am now going to sing. It's like
so formal,
you know?
Yeah.
But that's how we feel. We feel like, oh my God, I am so-and-so and I am now going to sing. Who am I to do this, right? Don't look at me. And it's like, great. So close your eyes, get out of your way, sing in the dark, just be with your voice as it is in its pure naked form.
Yeah.
Start to get comfortable with who you are. And then let that light out. Test it out on people that you trust. Test it out on yourself in the mirror. Find a singing community. Bring yourself forward into opportunities to really live that part of yourself and ask for support.
I love it.
Life will guide you.
I think the time I sang the most was when we were in that Temescal, when we did Leaders Create Leaders in Tulum.
Yeah.
And remember, my arm was all fucked up. I had those the staple stitches in my elbow. You're helping me clean them, remember? And it was gnarly. Like, I just got for everybody listening, I had a metal plate taken out of my elbow from the crash. And like, there were staples, literal staples in my arm. I got out of surgery 2 days before flying to Tulum to do this, right? Wow. And then like day 3 or day 2 into this retreat we're in that you're facilitating, we go to Temescal, like a sweat ceremony in like a freaking super sauna. Like it's like a Mexican heat igloo, fucking thing, right?
Perfect description.
Yeah, we'd go inside of it, and it's like the hottest sauna you've ever been in your life. And they bring in the abuelas, right? The stones, and they're super hot. And by the first door, you're like, okay, this is how the first session. And then each door, they bring in more rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there near the entrance with Brianna's on the other side, and like they're bringing in the rocks, and I'm like keeping my elbow, try to like kind of near the door.
Wait, yeah.
But like, it's just like I have staple stitches in my arm, and I'm like, I don't know if I should do this. And they're like, here's a cloth. That's they give me like a cloth to wrap around my elbow. I'm like, cloth will help, of course, right? So there's cloth around, and then it gets hotter and hotter. But the singing, because it's pitch black darkness, and so when when you're in this hot sauna, but you're singing these songs, it was actually kind of nice, and it was helping me get through it, to be honest. So I was like, okay, no one can see me singing. I can sing loud, and I can sing free, and I can do it. And also it's helping me like get through this like intense situation.
Yeah.
And that was like really nice. And then when it was the 4th door, that was like, oh my God. As soon as it happened, I'm like, I'm going to lay down now.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
Prone on the ground, like soaking up any coolness from the tile possible.
Anything. I was just near the door. I'm like trying to like, my mouth near the exit, just like, just give me something, right? And after, by the end of it, I was like a raisin of a person. Yeah. But I was like so proud that I did it. But I remember the singing was like actually made it easier.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't sing, I was like, it's so fucking hot, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And when I sang, I was like, at least I can focus on the singing, But by the end of it, when we were saying like we're set an intention before they bring in more rocks, and you like say your name and set an intention, and by the end of it, I could just say the word. I was just like intention. I just like literally said intention at one point. I couldn't even set an intention. I just said intention. I was so fucked up. I was just like intention. Everybody started laughing. Like,
that's hilarious.
I was like, I had nothing in me. Oh. I was so proud I made it through, but the singing helped. Like, it really did. That was, like, very powerful, right? And then medicine journeys, okay, the singing is very powerful. Like, in a deep ayahuasca ceremony, and you start singing, I felt, like, the whole vibration around me. And then, of course, like, in mantra, in japji, all these, like, yogic practices, and the singing, the vibration is so important in on. And it's like, wow, I felt my whole body vibrates through that. Where I grew up, like in East Sudan, there's not a lot to do with singing. It's just like not a thing.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's some conditioning there to let go of that. Singing's okay. And I see it like in the military, they have like singing clubs or something. It's just like, why is that just like not okay in this little pocket of where I grew up in? And I think a lot of men where singing is just not exactly like, maybe it's a me thing, but also not socially acceptable and like just a thug thing to do.
Sure.
It's just not a thing.
You're gonna kumbaya. I'm gonna go and some drops, like
some dope and kumbaya.
Perfect.
Took some crack.
All kinds of drug rings being born today.
Yeah, right. There's new conscious singing.
Cocaine and choir. Perfect.
Cocaine and choir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do that, guys.
No.
Cocaine's legal now. Cocaine's legal in Vancouver now. They're having an actual company that's going to be selling it legally.
Oh wow.
And I was like, where's the medicinal benefit of that, guys? Is that just going to come with like a 6-pack of beer? Like it's right next to the liquor store on a Friday night. I was like, what? Ooh, yeah. What's up with that? I'm like, I get like, okay, coca leaf medicinal, ancient. Okay, I could get like, okay, I could wrap my head around it, but I'm like, cocaine though. That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the harm reduction movement, right? It's all about like if you can provide safer access to these things people are already using in an effort to reduce, you know, the negative side effect.
That I get. That I can get. I can wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting though.
It is, yeah. And there's an amazing correlation to what you're saying that I want to touch on, which is that socially and culturally, for those of us who have grown up in North America, especially, we are highly disconnected from our tribal roots.
Yeah.
You know, most of us don't have an actual embodied memory of being a part of a culture where singing and dancing and sharing food was just what we do. Yeah. And that's who humans are. It's where we come from. We danced and sung around the fire. That's how we passed on our traditions. That's how we passed on our wisdom and our lessons. And, you know, when you grow up in these sort of like diaspora, neo-colonization sort of settings, it can be really, really challenging to find that individual motivation to reclaim those things for ourselves. But as you know, when you go on this journey of deepening into your heart and becoming heart-centered and living from love, it really becomes about being seen more and more and more in that, rather than your ego or your identity or who you've made yourself out to be, or in your primal survival instincts. And so that's why I feel it's so beautiful where communities that are forming around such things like medicine journeys are helping us to reconnect with that tribal sense of who we are, specifically through the medicines of song and dance and nature.
Yeah. I've seen that the most powerful medicine journeys I've been in, I was singing in them. I was going for it too. I was like, this is nice. You know, and it's like permission to do it. You know, I want to get more into it. I think that would be a good edge for me, is to start learning song and actually like getting into singing. Maybe I'll take your course.
That could be fun. You also do a little one-on-one transition.
I'm down.
You know?
I'm down.
Yeah,
I'm into that. That'd be very cool. It's like, it's such an edge. And now I'm in a point in my life where like I want to do shit that scares me.
Nice.
Like I want to do the darkness retreat. Did you ever do that?
No.
Would you want to do that?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I could maybe do like 3 days.
That's the thing I'm going to do, is a 3 days.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, like that's an edge for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, that sounds wild. 3 days in total darkness. Okay, I'm in. That scares me.
Yeah.
Like there's got to be something like intense. Like I don't put expectation that there's going to be growth on it on the other side of me, on the other side of that. But that's scary. I want to do it. Like that's kind of like where I'm at now.
Totally. You can sense that there are some emotions that you would move through in that experience that are beyond your normal everyday.
DMT, just because you have no vision, right? You're just going to trip balls. What's something that scares you right now that's an edge in your creative practice that you want to tackle?
Ooh, that's a great one. I think, you know, I'm really right now actively facing this edge of putting myself out there as a singer first. You know, and I've been working on that since I first came to visit LA in 2017. And I was like, I'm going to just test out leading with I'm a singer. Mm-hmm. It was definitely not what I was doing at the time. But once I started leading with that, people were responding to me like that. And they're like, oh, amazing. Like, how can we help you? Like, how can we this or that? Like, do you want to perform here? Do you want to? I'm like, whoa, I'm not ready for any of that. Like, whoa, like I was just trying that on. But now I'm not trying it on anymore. Like, it's on, really, it's on.
Yeah.
And so I'm leaning into the edge of owning up to what I said I would do.
Yeah.
And that is the type of edge that gets you up every single morning to go train and like do the things. And it's the edge of consistency.
Love it.
Rather than that push of like, I'm going to go do something wild that I've never done before.
Yeah. Don't you love it when you like set, like, I'm going to do this now, and you're leading with singer, that the universe is like, okay, singer, here you go.
Literally.
Here's singer things.
Literally.
Yeah. It's wild.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It really, really is.
What you put out there and what you state, like vocally as well as, you know, on your Instagram bio, but like what you put out there and you're just like, I'm this now. Mm-hmm. The world reacts to that and it shows, okay, this is what you're going to do. Here's the things for it. Literally. And I really love that. I give that to my clients all the time. I'm just like, put your flag in the sand. Yeah. State it to the universe. So you're going to do this now.
Yeah.
And then watch what it does for you. If you're aligned with that, it'll come. And I just love that. That's so juicy for me.
Yeah.
I had another like cosmic question I wanted to ask you before. I just came to circle back to around ideas.
Yes.
So do you think like there's a big, where do ideas come from? Because, you know, sometimes, okay, like electricity was invented, but people were working on it on different parts of the planet.
Yeah.
Or different things were invented. Like is there a collective consciousness, a big soup that ideas get plucked from and whoever's ready to get them, they come? Or do we just generate, like where do we get ideas and creativity from? What's your take on that?
I love that.
Right, it's a good one.
Yeah. I'm definitely of a similar mind that I feel like ideas live in great creation. Mm-hmm. I feel like all ideas, all creative potential exists in those realms, in the non-physical and the etheric. And we have the powers of our innate sensibilities, our intuition, and our imagination to be able to listen and receive those and then act on them. And that's our ability as humans, is to receive and act. That's the thing that translates our imagination into creation. And so, yeah, I am of the mind that I feel like spontaneous emergences of ideas can happen for multiple people all over the world at the same time, like the 100 monkey theory. Have you heard of that?
Vaguely, I remember this summer. Bring it on again for everybody else and for me to refresh, please.
Sure, yeah, it's worth it. It was it was an observation that was conducted. I'm not going to give any references because I don't know them, but basically it was like these two neighboring islands, and then there was a bunch of monkeys on one and a bunch of monkeys on another, and when a limit, I'm going to start that again. When 100 monkeys on one of these islands started doing a certain evolutionary behavior, all of a sudden, all the other monkeys on the other island started doing it too. And it was like, that is the power of collective consciousness. There is something that binds us all together. And I do believe that creation itself is trying to produce its great work through us. It's trying to produce ultimate beauty. It's trying to produce ultimate unity. And we are the ones who can either become conduits of that or blockages to that. And so for those of us who are in the business of evolution, we're open to that. We're open to receiving those ideas.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I'm the happiest when I'm in alignment with creation energy. Like, I think that's what the universe is big swirling, like, creation energy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, that's like, okay. And when we're in creative energy, like, that's we're in alignment with what's happening here. The universe is this expanding, system of stars.
Yeah.
All these things happening out of it. So that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
So stay in that space. And when I'm not in that space, and it's like a selfish space, because it's like creation energy, it's like for everyone.
Yes.
So when you're in like a create for me, it's like
Contract.
Yeah, totally. And it doesn't work the same way as when I'm creating for the world and for others and people around me. And I'm like, okay, I'm way happier, like way different. When I'm just like Gucci belt.
Yeah.
It doesn't do it. Yeah. I really want to get some people to take this course of yours. Like, I want this to be out there because I think it's going to change some lives.
Yeah.
So please go to the show notes. We'll put the link to the course.
Totally.
Get people there. Is there anything that you'd like to leave people with to inspire them to live a more creatively filled life?
Well, I would say inspiration is all around you. Your imagination is the doorway to really unlock what aspect of that inspiration is meant for you specifically as a soul. Because you have a unique vocal blueprint. You have a unique signature essence, a sound that is yours. And creation is waiting for you to discover that and really own it and put that flag in the sand, like you were saying, and own that this is who I am. This is what I'm about. And how I do that thing might change over time. I'm going to grow and change over time, but my spirit is here and present and accounted for. So if you can start to lean into that feeling of inspiration, of literally breathing in this energy of creation and just notice it. If you can just start by becoming more aware and more observant of the way that spirit and inspiration is moving through your life, you will feel the little tingles of creation as it asks you to put that phone down, go for a walk, call this person, write in your journal. Stop doing that other freaking thing you said you were going to stop 100 years ago. Finally stop it. Like, listen. Notice what you listen and act on the inspiration that you receive. Yeah. That's what
Thank you. I feel like it circles back to what you said at the start, that a lot of your creativity comes from listening.
Yes.
Listening to the divine, and a lot of people's creativity will come from listening to this podcast. So
you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for blessing the show with your presence and coming here and getting the link up again. And I think people are going to get some beautiful downloads from this.
Mm-hmm.
And please, everyone, follow Raven, jump on her course, tell her how much you were inspired from this, shoot her a message, she will answer her DMs, let her know that she inspired you deeply. So the creative energy is continuously out there and reciprocal and flowing as what it does. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon. Peace, homies.
Much love.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Ink Pray Love podcast. I hope you found it inspiring, entertaining, funny, and also feeling a little bit more present and connected to yourself. Please leave a review and like and subscribe and do all those things. I'd really appreciate that. As well as if you're feeling in a giving mood, this podcast is there for the charities that I love to support. Go to www.arenbaya.com/charity and get some of those good karma points. This podcast is brought to you by LightHouse Studios in Bali, as well as Full Reset Coaching. That is my coaching practice. And if you're looking for help in business, inner game impact, and building your legacy to be something you're proud of, your brand, your business, and how you walk the earth and who you impact, and also having the mindset and the heart set to be able to be happy handling it all. I'm here for you. Just DM me. Let's go. Peace out, homies. I'll see you on the next episode.